Konnichiwa, minna, yoneme Hokage. Uh,
Ooh,
that's all I got.
we're gonna get canceled so fast.
Oh, come on. I am but a
I just want it on
kawaii.
record that I'm not Carter. I'm Carter's evil alt universe persona, um, uh, retech, um,
I
glance.
thought you were gonna say Charter.
No, that's my idiot
We don't talk
persona
about
from
him.
the dumb universe.
Ah, okay.
Listen,
He's
you
not very bright.
sussy bakas.
Who
I
hated
am your
that?
professor today.
What is this? What are we? What the fuck?
Listen, it's the anime episode, so we're
I'm
speaking
aware.
Japanese.
You mean you're gonna
And
be using terms that we learned about in the first Calum Explains anime episode?
that's right, because my Nihongo is Jozu. So strap in, folks.
Just have all these written down.
No, he doesn't.
All off the dome, baby.
This energy is a little intense for me. I'm gonna lie down while we do this. I'm on a low sugar diet. I can't. I can't.
So
all right.
welcome to the first real episode of me explaining anime, because we have an anime to talk about, and it's a good one, if I must say so myself. So the way this is going to go, for those of you listening, including the people in this call, is
Ew.
I'm going to start out with a general introduction about the anime itself, some, background information, quick synopsis, breakdown of some of the characters, and then from there, if we want, we can go into spoiler territory where, if people, if they're already taken away by the intro and they're like, you know what, I'm going to go and watch this, pause the episode, go check it out, and then come back for the rest of it once you're done the 1064 episodes of One Piece. But if you're just like, I don't know, I'm not quite sold yet, and you want to know a little more spoilery stuff, then I can go into that and you can listen to that before you check it out. But would highly recommend this right off the bat. The show we are talking about today is Demon Slayer, also known as Kimetsu no Yaiba,
What
which
does that
in
translate to?
Japanese
Thank you.
means Blade of Demon Destruction.
Ah, I thought you were gonna say Demon Slayer. It's just
That
gonna
would
be
be
a.
That
funny.
gets a lot more metal.
Yeah. So, pretty cool. And
Yeah,
Carter,
I
you
was.
brought this up, so go ahead.
Well, it's actually funny. I've meant like when we were first pitching this, it's one of the ones I threw out as a name. And then when we were picking this specific episode, Kevin mentioned two, and I said, "Ooh, I vote Demon Slayer." It's interesting to me because again, I don't know too many anime series or movies, and yet this is one that not only comes up a lot, but seems to have a strong film presence. Like every
Mhm.
now and then I will read an article about like how well the movie did in the box office, how it was rivaling this film and that film, and it seems to be a regular stay in sort of the Fathom Events series. So I was curious about why this has such a like one, how the films relate to all of this, and two, how like in the scale of anime, which I have no sense of, where does this rank in terms of like mainstream household name energy?
Mhm. And so we can just jump right into that and explain. So, let's get into a little bit of the background of Demon Slayer. So, Demon Slayer, it is obviously originally a manga series. It was written and illustrated by Koyoharu Gotoge. Um, it was published in Shonen Jump, which is probably one of the most popular manga magazines out there, specifically for shonen anime. And as we talked about in the first episode, shonen is like kind of action adventure. It's geared towards like typically teenage boys. So it's, your Dragon Ball, your One Piece, Bleach, Naruto, all the like big actiony typical boy animes end up in here. And so Demon Slayer's manga run ran from 2016 to 2020. It is now completed with 23 volumes. And then in 2019, that is when the anime came out. And
Oh, so it's
so
very new.
it is very, very new. Yeah. So there's still some time left for the anime, but the manga is complete. If anybody wants to go and read it, but I will explain in a little bit why you probably would prefer to watch the anime. Um, the anime started with initially first season of 26 episodes, and it was produced by the company. I pronounce it UFO Table or UFO Table, but other people say Ufotable, which I think is
Hmm.
dumb. But to each their own. And I mention these a little bit, obviously for background for the audience, but also because I know you, Carter, enjoy animation and production of films and things like that. So knowing these companies will be important because you'll hear names like this a lot. A lot of the like
Right, right.
really, really well-known anime are going to be made by the same like groups of people. Um, so these are the people that made it. We had a first season, then there was a movie that came out, which was the Mugen Train movie. It adapted the Mugen Train arc of the show into one film, and that was released in 2020. And this film, this Demon Slayer movie, was the highest grossing anime film and Japanese film of all time, and still
Jesus.
is, I believe. Um, so that's crazy. Then they made a second season, which adapted the Train movie into anime episodes and then added another arc, the Entertainment District arc. After that, they made another movie, but it wasn't really a movie, and so there was a bit of controversy there uh, because it was kind of like an intro to the next season as well as a recap of the last season. And so people were like, there's hardly any new content in this so-called movie. Meanwhile, the Mugen Train movie was a whole new season.
Hmm.
Um, and it's definitely good that they adapted that movie into actual episodes because, that's a whole like canon arc that if people didn't go and see the movie, they would just completely miss and would have no idea what's going on. Um, But then after the little compilation film, we have the latest season, which is the Swordsmith Village arc, which just ended this past Sunday, just had its finale, which
Hmm.
was an hour long.
Hmm.
Um, and that's great. And already they've announced the fourth season. So in total, I believe there are going to be five, maybe six seasons. So a lot of the content is already out if people want to go check it out. As I said, the first season was 26 episodes. Second season was 18, and then this past one was I think like 9. So they've been getting shorter and shorter, but still very good. Now that we have a bit of the
Professor
background,
Calum, quick question.
yes. Do you need to pee?
No, not right now.
Good.
Would you say that this is one of the most currently popular animes out there? That's
Yep,
and
absolutely.
and then follow up. Do you think that they will make more episodes just to just because of how big it is, or do you think
Just
that they're
to
hard?
make money. Yeah.
Yeah, or do you think they're gonna
I
hard stop once they catch up to the anime plot?
My thought is that they will not do that, and I believe this because typically when you see filler episodes. So that's like, um,
The beach arc.
yeah, it's like the kind of garlic to anime watcher vampires when they hear filler episode. It's like it's an episode that means absolutely nothing. It is not canon, and if you didn't watch it, you wouldn't miss anything from the actual story. But sometimes they can be enjoyable, but for the most part, people are like, oh, they're running out of material. They got to throw in more stuff. But most of the time, when they're adding filler episodes, it's because they need to take time to do other things, whether that's they need more time to animate like a certain scene or something that is like really important. So they need to put all their money into it and take more time with it. or if they're catching up to the manga. If the manga is still coming out at the time that they're making the anime and they're afraid to catch up, because if they catch up, then they're like, well, now what do? We have no new material.
Yeah,
And
your
so
SOL.
what some
Do you?
people do is,
Oh, I was gonna say you mentioned non-canon. I'm a little curious about that.
mhm,
So, like, what would that would like? Do
It's
things literally happen in it that are contradictory to the rest of the plot? Like, are we talking
sometimes,
that
yeah.
level of non-canon, or more just like casual? Like, well, this is just an event that happened, but it doesn't relate to the plot.
like every Naruto movie out there.
Yeah, it depends on the show. But sometimes it's like, this is just like a little harmless thing that this probably could have happened in universe. It's just like not in the manga. Um, like some episodes where it's just like characters hanging out and interacting with each other, or as Kevin mentioned, the beach episode where all the characters just go to the beach and they hang out. And then other times you have things like Mecha Naruto, where they're like, this doesn't make sense at all,
Mm-hmm.
and this is definitely conflicting with a lot of stuff that happens in the actual show. I'm confused, and it goes like that.
Yeah,
So yeah,
or what was the one where they found like a kid that was like a spirit of some kind in Naruto, and then it's like, oh yeah, we were all friends when we were like 5, and then it's just like, isn't Naruto's whole shtick that he was like super lonely the first bunch of
and
years
then
of
he
his
had
life,
no friends,
no
and then
friends, and
yeah,
then it's like
and
everyone's
that
like, yeah, we're all friends.
and the whole thing was that Sasuke was his first friend, but then they just completely ruined that by saying actually it was this random kid that
Yeah,
was like an experiment. Yeah, we'll get to Naruto one day. But yeah,
Oh boy.
so they make filler episodes to avoid catching up to the manga, and sometimes if they do catch up, they're like, well, let's just make up our own story. And that would be an example of that is Full Metal Alchemist, the original show, where they're just like, well, we don't have any more manga chapters to adapt, so I guess we'll just make a whole new show.
Huh.
Um, yeah,
Would you say Demon Slayer is relatively accurate to the source material? You mentioned that there's a reason why some people would say I should just watch the show as opposed to reading it.
yeah.
I
I
have
would
a name.
say,
I just don't like reading.
I would say that Demon Slayer is kind of famous for um, it being one of the shows that is like just straight up. This is the original story that was told. There's no there's not really any filler and there's no like non-canon anything. This is just like how the story was supposed to be told. And the reason that Demon Slayer can do it and a few other shows can do it, I think, is because the manga was basically done um, when they made the anime. So they didn't have to worry about spacing it out and adding more stuff to like not contradict with the manga because the manga finished in May 2022 and the first season of this show started in April 2019. So they
Right.
had plenty of room.
Plus, you don't have to worry about, like, well, maybe the creator gave you an outline of where they were going, but things changed, and then it's like, well, do we change too, or do we keep focusing on the parts we focused on?
Hmm.
Um, my favorite example of that is, and I guess it's manga adjacent. Scott Pilgrim, originally in the books, which you see in the movie, is the fifth and sixth Evil X are DJs, and the big climax of that book it was supposed to be a battle of the bands, but creator Brian Lee O'Malley realized, oh, I would have to draw so many amps for so many pages, and then change them to just be, oh, we do robots, but they had already gotten so deep in production of the movie they can't just undo that. Like they'd already previs, they'd already storyboarded, they'd already allocated a budget to making that set. They can't just stop it halfway through.
Ah,
Hmm.
sure they can.
I mean, they could. It'd just be a horrible, and especially how little money that movie. But anyway,
Yeah.
I was also curious. You mentioned because the title is different. It references a sword. I've
Hmm.
noticed that a lot of the cool images I've seen of this anime are centered around swords that are like 10 feet long and on fire.
Yep.
Can you speak to that a little bit? Is that
Sure.
like the the main magic? Is that like do they all have secret like special weapons?
Yeah. So let me
How,
get into the
Why are they
story
the demon
itself,
slayers?
and we can explain that. But I just want to make a quick mention that also another positive thing about why people like the show is because um, it takes its time, where it is not like the kind of show where it comes out weekly every week. And so once again, it's another reason that people make filler episodes is because they're like, I don't know what to do this week, so let's just make something up. They take, you know, a good year and a bit apart between seasons to make the show,
Mhm.
um, which is nice. And what has led to it, as Kevin mentioned earlier, being really popular, it is the ninth best-selling manga series of all time. So pretty insane. Uh, but yeah, let's get into the story. So the story of Demon Slayer is about the main character, Tanjiro Kamado. He has a few friends along his side. He has his sister, Nezuko. He has some other Demon Slayer friends with Inosuke, my personal favorite, as well as Zenitsu, who a lot of people dislike. And they all want to fight demons for their own personal reasons. And we'll probably get into that in the spoilery bit. But they're all trying to fight demons, and the way to fight these demons that have been around for generations, like thousands of years or something, is with these special swords. The swords are made out of a type of metal called nichurine, which is injected with poison extracted from the wisteria flower. Um, and that's the only way to kill a demon is by cutting off its head with one of these special swords, as well as sunlight. If a demon is in sunlight, it'll burn up like a vampire. Um, and so there's this Demon Slayer corps. It's like a little army of sword people that their entire plan is to kill as many demons as possible and just get rid of demons as a whole. Because there's one main demon. His name is Muzan Kibutsuji, and a lot of people think he looks like Michael Jackson, which is just an interesting note. Um, he is the head of the demons. He makes other demons by feeding them his blood, and that's how they just kind of keep reproducing. And the
So they're a
more,
disease, like a disease from blood.
yeah, basically,
Oh, so they're like vampires?
yeah. But they
Oh.
have to eat humans to survive. That is the big thing. They don't bite humans and then the humans turn into demons. It's usually the demons will just straight up eat people, and that makes them more powerful. And the more humans that a demon eats, the stronger they are. And so to break up the power rankings basically between the two sides, the demons and the demon slayers. So you have Muzan at the top of the demons, and then he has the 12 Kizuki, or the 12 moons. And these are his 12 strongest demons that he has on his side. You have the upper moons and the lower moons split into
Mm.
six in both. And then you just have a bunch of other demons of various strengths. For the demon slayers, at the top you have this leader guy who I actually don't know the name of off the top of my head. I don't know if they've said his. They definitely said his name. I just can't think of it right now. But he's the head of the Hashiras, and the Hashiras are like the top demon slayers, and you only get to become a Hashira if you have killed one of the 12 Kizuki, or you've killed like over 50 demons or something like that. So there are a bunch of rankings throughout the Demon Slayer core. All of our main characters, uh, Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Inosuke, are like at the bottom of the barrel. They just started, just allowed to get their swords. And so they're working their way up. Um, and so the magic that you see, those are called breathing techniques. So in this story, the way that they fight these demons with these swords is with this sort of martial art where you use your breathing to kind of make yourself stronger. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but basically like the way they control their breathing and they use it, they kind of master control of their own body and can make themselves stronger and faster and all these other things. And they have these breathing techniques that are based typically on elements. And so pretty much each demon slayer will have their own uh, breathing style that they use. So to start out, Tanjiro uses the water breathing style. So all of his moves are water based. And so you'll see him when he's swinging his sword around, there's a nice little water effect that kind of follows with him. And more than one person can have the same sort of breathing style. Like he
Right.
learned his water breathing style from a teacher. There's a Hashira who is the water Hashira, who's really good at it, that Tanjiro interacts with early on in the series. Zenitsu uses thunder breathing, so he has little lightning powers. But then you start to get weird, right? You have water, you have fire, you have
Right. Those track.
Yeah.
lightning, you have
Basic
rock,
elements. All right.
yeah, you have sound, right?
Okay.
Wind,
All
It's
you
right.
like,
have,
it's like the
you
later
know,
Pokemon generations. We get a little more esoteric, but it still tracks.
yeah, you have insect, you have love, you have
Mm.
beast, you have, snake, you have,
Wait, they have Beast and Snake?
uh-huh,
Why
That's
are they
good to know.
separate?
Okay.
couldn't tell you.
Um, yeah, but that like tracks because it's like, well, like, because like I run a lot, and a big part of it is like you have to breathing. You can't let your breathing control you because that just messes up your whole body
Yeah.
when you're like, because it's like oxygen intake. If you're breathing calmly, you get steadier oxygen. If you can't control your breathing, you're just like, and you end up losing more oxygen that you're putting in, and your body just shuts down. And
Mm-hmm.
then, like, yeah, martial arts have stances, so that kind of tracks. Um, I did look up that guy does look like Michael Jackson.
Does he? Yeah, right? It's weird. I don't know why they chose to do that. But yeah, so a bunch
I
of
don't
different
like
breathing
it being
styles.
political.
I think I remember all of them. There's also Mist. I don't think I mentioned Mist.
You did not.
But basically, it can be like anything. Like you think it's just going to be the elements because that's the ones you're introduced to initially. And then it's like, nope, sound, love, and snakes. Yeah.
Um,
So, and I also want to make mention that you can't actually see the effects like in
Hmm.
universe. They show it in the show and they show it in the manga, but the author has specifically said that no, there are no actual fire and water and thunder effects when they're swinging their swords around. They're literally just swinging their
Breathing.
swords around
Oh,
and
okay.
it's like
breathing.
it's like the emotional idea of what it is.
Mm-hmm. It's like this is what it like kind of embodies. Like this is like the, I don't know, imagery that you would see, I guess.
So
But
the sword doesn't actually gain like 7 inches of fire,
nope.
which I couldn't say with a straight face. I apologize. We should work on phrasing.
Yeah.
Um,
And a lot of people don't like that. And a lot of people choose
They don't
to
like the
ignore that.
phrasing.
Yes.
well, I mean, it's like an interesting idea in terms of like, oh, there's like a hidden world of kind of like a hidden aspect to it. It's like, seeing is believing or whatever. But at the same time,
Hmm.
it's like, isn't it cooler if a thing does happen?
You would think so.
Because it's like when people are like, well, what if that was just a dream or they like died in the afterlife? Like, well, then it's a cool story didn't happen. That's lame.
Yeah. Because if you watch the show or read the manga and you see the imagery happening, it looks amazing. One of the most,
Hmm.
I think, drawing things about this show is the imagery and the animation. A lot of people say that the show is honestly carried by the animation, and that
I would
without
agree.
it, it might
I would
not
hope
be
so.
as popular as it is, which I think is very interesting. Then we can talk about that in a bit. But yeah, so you have the demon slayers, they have their breathing styles, their weird elements. They use that to fight the demons, and their main goal is to kill Michael Jackson. And that's basically that. But I will also add that our main character, has some other important powers.
He's not like
Specifically,
other demon slayers.
yeah, you think he's just a normal guy, but then you find out
He's part
he's
demon.
really good at smelling.
Oh,
Uh, that's
Yeah,
not where I was expecting that to go, but
he
I'll
has
see it
his
out.
superpower is he has a really strong nose, and and not only a really strong nose, a really thick skull.
I feel like though that's
Well,
a character
this
trait of literally every shojo protagonist.
That's just
well, they do
you
get
know,
punched a lot.
it's I meme on it, but it is a huge aspect of the show that he can smell like anything. He can smell people's emotions and smell whether
Oh,
someone is lying. Um,
huh.
and he headbutts people a lot. And that's like his whole thing is like people are like, you're weak. And then he headbutts them. And then they're like, holy crap, my head.
I need to go to a hospital.
Yeah.
I shouldn't
So,
play football anymore.
yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
so I'm curious, like, okay, so that's the premise of the show. But in terms of individual episodes, like, so you've mentioned there are a couple different arcs. Do the arcs
Yeah.
tend to follow a similar pattern? Like, is it like a goal gets established and then we carry it out?
Yeah.
Like, is there a monster of the week element to it? Like, what does your average episode sort of pan out to?
So in the first season, it's obviously very introductory, so you have a lot going on. You have to make the kind of final goal for the whole series and start working towards that. So they have a very strong first episode, in my opinion, where they set up like, here's where we go from here, here's where we came from. Now we have like a long journey to go on.
Hmm.
Then you get into kind of the grinding, the training of like, I know what I must do, but I'm not strong enough to do it. And then you start to expand on the world. You see more of these characters. You understand more of how this world works. I should also mention that this series takes place in the Taisho era of Japan, which is between 1912 and 1926. So it's like not ancient Japan. It's
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's pre-World War Japan.
yeah, because when you get into it, it's just like people living without electricity, using samurai swords, whatever looks ancient, and then like suddenly there's a train, and you're like, oh, it's just because they're like hillbillies, but
Yeah, it's like
Japanese.
Menchai restoration. Like a lot of sort of people, a lot of samurai just went to the hills so they could
Yeah,
keep doing their thing.
yeah. So like that's another big aspect. Is like the people living in the cities have no idea that like demons are a thing. What are you talking about? Like that's some old wives' tale type of thing. While these guys are like out in the woods, living it, and it's crazy. Um, yeah. Sorry. What?
Hmm. See, I did not know that. I assumed it took place in like a fictitious world. So like that's actually interesting to me that there is a period piece element to it,
Yeah, it is
even if it's
supposed to
just
take
for a
place in a
step.
very specific like time period.
That's interesting.
Um,
Is that common for anime to take place in like real, like sort of nominally be a real world with fantastic elements?
when it comes to shonen, it's very not uh, how it usually is. Like when
Huh.
it's more like slice of life anime or something, yeah.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's like just a completely random time period. Like Dragon Ball, for some reason, they have futuristic cars and things, and they have dinosaurs at the same time. So it's like,
It's
who
whatever
knows?
they want.
Whatever he felt like drawing. Yeah. But what was your question before this sidetrack? I forgot.
Oh, just kind of like what like the average episode
Ah,
entails, I
right, right.
suppose.
Yeah, so as the later seasons come, then it's basically like we have a mission, which is usually to kill a demon, and then we work towards killing that demon, because usually it's like a very strong one. And so their missions are given to them by the head of the Hashiras, and it's translated to them via talking crows. Everybody has their own crow
Oh.
Mhm.
that can talk and tells them what their mission is. Except for Zenitsu, who has a sparrow for some reason.
Does it explain why, or is it just kind of like
No,
as a sparrow?
it's just like, all right, here are all of your crows, and then Zenitsu gets a house sparrow, and he's like, this is not a crow, and they're like, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, hmm um, other questions before maybe we spoil some things.
um.
Um, oh, you go first, Kevin.
No, you can go. I'm still processing how to say mine out loud.
Um, and so you mentioned the one movie is the highest grossing. So you meant so that movie is just one of the arcs of the manga where it's like, oh, we're not going to do this arc as a series. We're going to do it as its own movie.
Yep.
What is it intend? Well, I guess that goes into spoilers, so we can save that for now.
Yeah,
But
but it's
um,
basically, without spoiling anything, is similar to what their other stuff has been. Is there's something weird going on? We think a demon is involved. You three main characters go check out what's up, and it has to do with a train and one of the Hashiras that we get introduced to.
So is it?
got you.
Sorry. Is it Power Ranger esque where it's like you got the same episode plot line every episode, or?
No, it's definitely slightly different each time, but the overall arcs are basically the same. Especially um, the movie, the second season, and the third season are pretty much all. There's a really strong demon. We got some other side plot that we're doing, but suddenly, big scary demon appears. We gotta fight it, and there's a Hashira with us. And that's basically it for those seasons. But they keep it interesting with obviously introduction of like new powers. The demons keep getting stronger. We have different characters coming in, things like that.
What is
Interesting.
like the ultimate goal of our protagonist? What is he going for here? What's
So
his dream?
partly it is to beat the top demon because Tanjiro's whole thing is that he is like nice and honest, like to a fault, like he is the
Hmm.
purest boy. Um, and this guy Muzan represents everything that is wrong with the world, and he's super evil, kills people indiscriminately, and that really rubs Tanjiro the wrong way for multiple reasons. And there are some other spoilery reasons, but it's a spoiler for the first episode, so you know,
Hmm.
like you see his reasoning right away, but I won't mention it just yet. Hmm
Got you.
And
Um,
before we move on to that to something else, I also want to point out. So I mentioned that the animation is a big player in the popularity of this series.
Hmm.
Um, Ufotable are famous for making really, really popular, well-made, well-animated um, anime. And so, if I can, let's see what other stuff they've done. I'm trying to think. Oh, actually, I'm not seeing a lot, but they are very famous, I will say. Um, but the manga is not well known for its art. It's
hmm.
actually kind of infamous for not being drawn well,
I
and
mean,
that's what makes it very interesting.
I mean, the artist did say that the cool effects aren't real, which I'm just like, oh,
Yeah,
huh?
Yeah.
yeah,
We intended it to look like that. We intended the CGI to look like poop. That was an art
exactly.
choice.
Yeah. So, um, if you go and you read the manga, you will see the art is not great looking. It's kind of rough the way he draws things. Um, and I'm no artist, so I can't really judge that much. But when you compare the original drawings to what they animate, it's like worlds apart. And so people who don't really like Demon Slayer that much will make that argument saying like, the story overall is kind of mid, but it's just well animated. Like it's only good for the animation. Everything else sucks. If you read the
Right.
manga, then that's when maybe people would start to see that where they're like, "Oh, yeah, without the good stuff, this is kind of bad." And when you watch the show, there are comedic elements where like the characters will make like a silly cartoonish face, and those silly cartoonish faces are what the manga looks like normally.
Hmm.
So if you watch a show, you'll see those times where they make like a dumb face, and then you look at the manga and it's like, oh, that's how they're always looking here.
Huh.
Hmm.
I have two quick questions before we move on.
Sure.
I was looking over the characters, and I've seen this character in meme-ups all the times. I just didn't know where they were. Um, why is the one lady constantly holding some kind of green tube in her mouth? Is
Uh,
that a spoiler?
Partly, yes, but that's Nezuko, uh, the main character's sister.
Hmm.
She is
Um,
the heartthrob of the show.
I've gathered that based on the opening, without knowing what it
Yeah,
was from. Uh,
yeah.
and follow-up question. I guess this will just be I ask in general for most of these. If you could sum up in one sentence, like you're in an elevator, you're trying to sell someone on the show, and you only got a couple floors, what would you say? Why is this show special?
So Demon Slayer is one of the most well animated series I've ever seen. It is straightforward to the point. You get a good story and amazing imagery, and you just can't go wrong with the action. Also, I would say, other than the many awards it has already won, specifically episode 19 of season 1, quote unquote, on every uh, like anime news source, whatever media outlet, said that it broke the internet because of how good it was.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I've brought that up to other people who I have suggested watch the show. And after they watched episode 19, went, wow, yeah, that makes sense.
Hmm. It is the because all anime stems from Steven Universe. It is
Yes,
the you find out what Garnet's deal is episode.
exactly. When that episode came out, everybody was freaking out. Everybody was talking about it. And a lot of people say it was like kind of a rebirth for anime where normal people who are not into anime started looking at anime and going, oh, this looks pretty cool. It's like a anime renaissance.
Huh.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I already wrote that down. You
Hmm.
got any other questions, Kevin?
Um, I got a question, but I feel like I could save it for after the spoilery part.
Hmm.
Um, but
That's fine.
yeah, I'm gonna save my question till the end of the episode.
Sure. So I won't obviously spoil the whole show because I want people to go to watch it. But
I appreciate that.
to explain a couple things, specifically in the first episode. So from here on out, there will be spoilers, warning to people. Go watch the show if you think it's interesting, and you can come back and listen to this. Or if you still want to hear a little bit more, you're not quite certain, listen up. So the first episode, Tanjiro's with his family. He lives with his mom and several siblings. I think he has like 5 siblings. Their dad is no longer with them, and so Tanjiro kind of does all the work around the house. He goes out one day looking for firewood, comes back to his home, and his entire family is dead. He's
Oh,
in shock.
Jesus.
He has no idea what's going on. His family's just a bloody mess on his floor, um, except for his sister Nezuko, who looks beaten up, not good, but she is alive. Only then to find out Nezuko has been turned into a demon. So now his sister, after his entire family died, is trying to eat him, and he's trying his best not to hurt his beloved sister. Still reeling with all of these, thoughts about how he's just lost his entire family in an instant. And so, as he is figuring out what the heck to do with his life while trying not to die via the hands and teeth of his sister, Giyu Tomioka, the water Hashira, shows up. And he is about to kill Nezuko because he's like, here's a demon attacking a human. I got to take her out. And so Tanjiro says, no, you can't. This is my sister. And, you know, you can't do that. I have to find a way to fix her. And he says, no, no. There's no saving her. She's a demon now. I have to kill her or she'll kill you. And so Tanjiro then switches and starts fighting Giyu. Now keep in mind, Giyu is a Hashira. He is the top class warrior in this universe. And Tanjiro is just a kid, that lives in the middle of nowhere. Kind of like Courage the Cowardly Dog. But as the fight goes on, like, Giyu knows he's obviously clearly stronger than Tanjiro, and he's also trying to save him. So he's not going to, like, stab him or anything. But he sees that Tanjiro is actually surprisingly strong. Like, and he's pretty clever too. Like, he's clearly never been in a fight, but he is putting in work right now. And so he's like, you know what? There might be something to this kid. So he knocks him out, or just incapacitates him a little bit. And Nezuko comes over to him, looking like she's about to eat Tanjiro. So Giyu's ready to cut her down, but then he stops because he sees Nezuko, instead of tearing apart Tanjiro and eating him, stands in front of him and is protecting him from Giyu, which is something he's never seen before. It's like a demon protecting a human. That just doesn't make any sense. How could that possibly be the case? So he says, all right, there's weird stuff going on here. You two are weird. I'll just let you do you, I guess. And so he's just kind of like, all right, have fun. If you want to learn how to fight properly, because now that your sister is a demon, you're probably going to run into a lot of trouble. Go talk to my old teacher and see what he can do. And the reason that she has that bamboo in her mouth all the time is because while they're fighting, Tanjiro would put like a stick in her mouth to prevent her from biting him. And so now, just to kind of prevent her from getting the urge to bite people, she has this bamboo shoot always wrapped up on her mouth so that even if she wanted to bite somebody, she couldn't. So now Tanjiro is motivated to kill the head demon because he killed his entire family, and to find a way to cure Nezuko from being a demon. And that's the first episode.
God, it really is vampire rules.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All of that. How long is the first episode?
I think they're all like 20 minutes.
Yeah, Calum just quoted it exclusively.
Yeah.
Criminy Cracker Jacks.
Mm-hmm. So the first season is Tanjiro training to become a demon slayer and trying to help Nezuko because, as I mentioned before, demons need to eat humans to survive. Or at least...
No, I was going to say, I thought earlier you said they need to eat humans to get stronger, so is it...
They do, but also humans are the only thing that they eat. So they thought that, if she doesn't eat people, she'll probably just like waste away and die.
Okay.
But we find that actually no. It just means that she'll be really weak for a while. So instead of eating people, what Nezuko does is she sleeps, and that's how she regains her strength. But she'll sleep for like weeks at a time, basically, to have enough energy to actually like move around and do stuff. So Tanjiro keeps her in a box on his back so that when she's sleeping, he can keep moving her around, and also to protect her from the sun during the day. Mm-hmm. And so the first season is basically just him training, becoming stronger, figuring out what to do with Nezuko, and fighting demons along the way. And when he gets to the Demon Slayer initiation, which is where you go to this mountain full of demons and you fight your way to the top of the mountain where these people are waiting to hand out your special swords. He goes, he makes his way through, beats a bunch of demons, and he makes it to the top with a couple other demon slayers alongside him, being Zenitsu, Inosuke, Kanao, which is a girl who does insect breathing. Um, Zenitsu does thunder, Inosuke does the beast, and um, the last guy, oh, I'm blanking on his name, but he does. Actually, I won't say. His name is Genya, but he's a bit more spoilery. He doesn't really come in until like season 3.
Hmm.
They all get their swords, and now they're real demon slayers, and they go off to fight even stronger demons. And that's the
And
first season.
you said the manga is over. Have you
Mm-hmm.
read the manga, or are you familiar with the manga?
I've seen bits and pieces, but I've never actually read it all the way through.
Oh, got you. So you don't know how this all ends.
Nope.
Interesting.
Sometimes I don't mind looking up spoilers, um, or reading ahead in the manga ahead of where the anime is, because sometimes I just need more content and I gotta see it. But
This
this
is
is
not one of
one
them.
where I know stuff that happens in the future, but I do not know the ending, and I do not want to know the ending
I
because I
got you.
want to see it
I
once we
respect
get
that.
there. And we're getting pretty close. Like I said, they just announced season 4, and there's probably only going to be 6 seasons max, but maybe just 5.
All right, now it's time for my question.
Sure.
So, on a scale of 1 to 7, because I
Mm-hmm.
support Joe, where would you rank Demon Slayer as of this point in the anime?
I would rank it. So some people didn't like this latest season, um, and there's a number of reasons for that. The animation is still great. I think up to this current season, I would say it is a 6 out of 7. Um, because honestly, the only thing I would want is just more of it. Like this latest season was really short. That's one thing people didn't really like. Another thing is they didn't like the main antagonists of this season. They think that they weren't really a threat compared to like previous antagonists. But I would argue that that's only because of how much stronger the protagonists were this season, and it really just kind of showed how much they've progressed. But I understand people's gripes with it. Another thing people complained about is the use of CG, because for the most part, this show is 2D animated, but they have the occasional CG element to it to help because there's a lot of crazy stuff that they have to try to animate in this show, and sometimes you just need CG to help it out. And I never think it's egregious. Like there are some anime, like Berserk, that the CG is just atrocious, and like I don't know why they decided to do it in the first place, but people said there was a little too much this season. They didn't really like it, so um, I don't have those complaints. So I think it would still be a 6 out of 7.
All right, I can
Hmm.
respect that.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I know I did. Oh,
I was a
yeah,
follow up
Kevin, you go
question.
first.
The follow up question is actually for Carter.
Hmm.
On a
Hmm.
level of 1 to 7, of course, how enticing has Calum made this anime seem for you?
I'm going to say, out of 7, I'm going to say around 5 or 6. Like I've seen enough of the animation, and Calum's reiterated like that's the norm. That's what they're going for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, on top of like I don't know, having a sense of the structure. is way more like I'm like, okay, I can get into that. That seems like it has a steady enough pace for me. Um, on top of like, I don't know, I like rule systems. I like the ideas of different fighting styles. I can get into that.
Hmm. And alongside those, I forgot to mention the breathing styles of the demon slayers. The demons aren't just like strong vampire people. They have their own magic system that's called blood demon art. And
I
so
was actually
each
literally about
demon,
to ask this.
yep, has its own unique powers. And
Uh,
so like there are demons that can like summon little minions to attack for them. There are demons that can like shoot out these projectiles. There are demons that can control gravity. Like there's all these different uh, powers that the different demons have that also make it interesting to see like how are our guys gonna get around that.
Mhm.
hmm.
I
Hmm.
like it.
I'm
Yeah, this is
interested.
definitely one. Yeah, this is definitely one I'm going to give a couple episodes a try. Maybe next episode we can do a sort of follow up and see how I'm feeling about it. Is it available on what are the like? I guess that's one thing I'm learning. Like, what platforms are all of these Funky Town creations on? I
I
don't know
think
They're
it's
why
on
I'm
Hulu.
usually
Yeah, they're really split up between the when it comes to anime with streaming services. Obviously, Crunchyroll will have pretty much everything,
right.
but Demon Slayer, I believe, yes, is on Hulu. I think it is also, or at least at one point, it was on Netflix. Um, and off the top of my head, I think those are the main two.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, give it a couple episodes. Demon Slayer, I would say, is probably in my top three choices of if somebody who's never seen anime says, "What show should I watch first?" Demon Slayer would be one that I choose.
Hmm.
That alongside probably Attack on Titan and probably Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Well, nobody likes Attack on Titan. I've never met a single person that's a fan of that show.
Not a single person likes Attack on Titan, and we know that as a fact. Kenny Mac doesn't listen to these, so it doesn't matter.
I would say he's not going to listen.
Yeah. So Crunchyroll, Hulu, Netflix, check it out. I think it's worth it.
Hmm.
Awesome.
Hmm.
All right. You want to send it home, Calum?
Sure. So thank you all so much for listening. Hopefully this was interesting. I have a huge list of anime to go through that I've seen that I'd be happy to talk about, and we
It's a
probably
lot.
will. Um, but if you people at home also have anime that you specifically want to hear about, maybe something you've seen that you just want to hear like my opinions on, or something you haven't seen that you're curious about that I probably have seen, and you're like, is it worth it? Let me know, because not every anime I'm going to talk about is going to be well liked. There are some episodes I have planned for the future that I just hate this show. Oh my god, I can't wait to rip it apart.
So
So
that's the
stay
Attack
tuned.
on Titan show.
Now you're getting it. So yeah, stay tuned. Let us know what you want to hear, and I hope you check out Demon Slayer. Thanks for listening.